Black woman CEO denied withdrawal. Staff froze when she said, "I own this bank." Where are you watching from? Type your city in the comments. You might just get a shout-out in the next video. If you're a cat lover, hit like. If you're a dog lover, drop a comment. Let's see who wins. And if you love pets in general, hit like and subscribe for some good luck today. The line at First National Bank stretched like a serpent, coiling with impatience. A Friday afternoon rush, voices humming, pens scratching, heels clicking across the polished floor. Behind the counters, bank tellers worked quickly, their smiles thin, their tone mechanical. At the front of the line stood a woman in a crimson dress, her posture commanding without trying. Her name was Amara Johnson. She looked ordinary to the untrained eye, just another professional woman handling her errands. But her eyes told a different story. They were sharp, unwavering, the kind of eyes that had seen battlefields in boardrooms and refused to blink. She slid a withdrawal slip across the counter. "I'd like to withdraw $120,000, she said calmly. The teller, a young man named David, froze. He looked at the slip, then at her. Ma'am, are you sure? That's a large amount. I'll need to call my supervisor." Amara smiled politely. "Go ahead." David disappeared into the glass office of the branch manager, a man with a salt and pepper beard and the kind of arrogance that grows from years of unchecked authority. His name was Richard Stanton. From behind the glass, Amara could see Richard glance at her through the window, his lips curling into something between suspicion and disdain. He strode out a moment later, his voice already dripping with condescension. "Good afternoon. I'm Richard, the branch manager. I'm afraid we can't process your request." The room seemed to pause. Conversations dimmed, eyes turned. Amara raised an eyebrow. "And why not?" Richard clasped his hands in front of him, as if addressing a child. "Withdrawals of this size require prior notice and certain verifications. Security protocols, you understand. We can't just hand out that much cash to anyone." The last word lingered in the air like an insult. Amara's lips curved into the faintest smile, but her voice stayed even. "My account is fully funded. You can check. There should be no issue." Richard chuckled. "That may be. But we have to be careful. People try things, fraud, schemes. I'm sure you understand." Around them, murmurs began to ripple. A woman in line whispered, "That's ridiculous." "If she has the money," another man muttered. "Typical. They think certain people can't possibly be wealthy." But Amara did not flinch. She leaned slightly on the counter. "You're denying me access to my own funds?" Richard smirked. "We're denying you an unsafe withdrawal. Perhaps you should try a smaller amount. Something reasonable." The silence that followed was electric. Amara straightened her back, her voice ringing clear across the marble floor. "Reasonable." She paused, then locked her eyes on Richard. "Let me make something clear. I am not just a customer here. I am the majority shareholder of this institution. This bank, every branch, every desk, every account under the First National name, belongs to me. So when I say I want my money, I expect you to remember who signs your paychecks." The words hit like thunder. The entire lobby froze. Phones came out. A few gasps echoed. Even David, the teller, blinked in shock. Richard's smirk faltered for the first time. "You own this bank," he stammered. Amara nodded once. "That's correct. I bought controlling interest last year. You may have missed the memo, probably too busy patronizing customers to read your shareholder reports." Richard's face flushed crimson. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His confidence was gone, replaced with a trembling edge of fear. A voice broke through the tension. It was David, the teller. I've seen her name before," he said hesitantly. "On the corporate board documents. Johnson Holdings, she's listed as CEO." The crowd erupted into whispers. Someone whispered, "She really owns the bank?" Another said, "Lord have mercy." Amara remained still, her arms crossed, her eyes never leaving Richard. Richard tried to recover, his voice cracking slightly. "Well, even so, there are protocols." Amara cut him off sharply. Protocols do not override ownership. Do you deny your employer access to her own money? Or was this really about something else? Her question hung heavy, accusatory, undeniable. Richard swallowed hard. His silence was louder than words. And in that silence, truth bled into the open. This wasn't about protocols. It wasn't about security. It was about the disbelief in his eyes when she walked in. A black woman asking for 6 figures in cash. It didn't fit his picture of who should hold wealth. But now, exposed under the weight of her revelation, Richard looked small. Very small. Amara leaned in just slightly, her tone like steel wrapped in silk. Do your job. Process my withdrawal. Now. David scrambled, hands shaking as he began the paperwork. The crowd watched, some filming, some nodding in approval. Richard stood stiff, his authority crumbling before everyone. Minutes later, stacks of bills were counted and sealed. David slid them across the counter with both hands, bowing his head slightly. Here you go, ma'am. Thank you for banking with us. Amara gathered the money calmly, slipping it into her bag. She looked around the room, at the faces watching her, at the phones recording, at the silent manager burning with humiliation. Then she spoke, not just to Richard, but to everyone. Let today be a reminder. Power doesn't always look the way you expect. Respect is not optional. And arrogance is expensive. It costs more than money. It costs trust, dignity, and sometimes, careers. With that, she turned and walked out, her heels clicking against the marble, each step echoing like a drumbeat of triumph. The crowd parted for her, eyes wide, some applauding softly, others shaking their heads in awe. Behind her, Richard stood frozen, his career dangling by a thread. He knew what would come next: emails, phone calls, meetings with the corporate office. His name would spread across reports, not for his performance, but for his prejudice. And Amara. She didn't need to gloat. She didn't need to raise her voice. She had already won, because true power speaks for itself. Moral of the story. Power isn't always loud, and it isn't always obvious. It lives in those who know their worth and refuse to let others diminish it. Respect everyone, because you never know who's really sitting across the table.